Hello, Internet! I'm Elliot the Purple-Haired Doofus, and welcome back to Bad Unicorn by Platt F. Clark. Today we're covering chapters 13 through 18. So I hope you've read up to that point, because I do not want to ruin anything for you.
It starts with our lovely wizard Rezormoore. And he's thinking about dragons for some reason. Who knows why? Well, he is going to the kingdom to discuss his recent run-in with a dragon. He comes across Kronek, kind of a dim-witted security guard.
Hey, I'm not dim-witted.
You kinda are, dude. You kinda, were asking why you couldn't beat my head in.
Well, that's because I really wanted to.
See? Anyways, he meets up with the dim-witted Kronek, and Kronek takes him to see the king. And it turns out that the king is just as dim-witted as the security guard, because he doesn't know that informative is actually a compliment and not an insult. But the king wants to discuss the recent attack, and he wants to ask why Rezormoore killed the dragon, and how Rezormoore is in trouble right now. Rezormoore says, well, I want the serpent's estuan. I don't think I said that right, but it's the best I can do. And the king laughs and says, oh, you want the ketchup thingy. Rezormoore and the king kind of come to a decision that they are going to hunt dragons throughout the land. The zombie duck comes in to take me away. And I think the zombie duck is becoming Elliot's favorite character, because it's just kind of awesome. He just kind of walks in and he goes, wah!
In the distant future, we have Max, and he is sitting down with the Frobbits after his recent run-in with Princess and Magar. And we find out that in the Frobbits language, Max actually means that itch on your butt. I'm not kidding! In the Frobbit language, the name Max means a certain itch on your butt. And so every time he introduces himself to a Frobbit, they're like, I am so sorry. And he's like, no, that's my name. And they're like, oh. They're discussing Magar and Robo Princess. Dirk is like, so they're like a level 60, aren't they? And Sarah says, this isn't a video game. This is real. And it's just kind of like, I understand where Dirk is coming from. That's his coping mechanism. That's what drives him and keeps him sane in this crazy, crazy situation, is to relate the situation to something that he is actually knowledgeable about. So I completely understand Dirk right now. Max continues to flip through his book, and we find out why the moon is a cheeseburger. It's because in the hundreds of years between when they left Earth and when they came back to Earth, Earthlings decided to use the moon as an advertising site, and it got stuck as a McDonald's cheeseburger in the sky. As he's looking over the book, Sarah notices that she can't read any of it, but he certainly can, and she deduces his wizardry. And then we meet up with Dwight, who is understandably drunk because he is so depressed about his current situation in life. The next chapter is a little confusing if you skip over chapter titles like I do. What it actually is it's Princess and Magar, but it's Princess and Magar in the time when Max and everyone were in the comic book shop before they got shot to the future in the fantasy land trying to get to Earth. You with me? As they're on their way to Earth, they come across a small army, and the small army threaten them. And they say, oh, wait, you're just a little girl and a wizard. We're looking for a unicorn and a wizard. And Princess takes out her horn and starts threatening the army. And the army try and reconcile, but Princess isn't really having it. And Princess raises a zombie knight that actually destroys the small army. And then Princess and Magar go on their way. Jump back into the future, and we have Max reading by Fairylight. There's a snow fairy above him, and he's reading from the Codex of Infinite Nobility below the fairy. He's reading about spells. He comes across the spell of futurity. Don't know if I'm saying that right. I hope I am. But he comes across the spell of futurity. He thinks it's the spell to bring them home. And he actually has one of those hallucinations where he kind of blacks out and wakes up in the comic book shop, but time is frozen. And he knows that he can get back there somehow, but the spell is just out of his reach. And he can't quite make it. So he wakes up from his blackout and runs to all of his friends and he says, you know, I can take us back to the past where we're supposed to live. And they say, that's great. And all the Frobbits are like, could you please meet with our elders first so that we may do what we can to help you? And Max is like, of course. I would love to meet your elders. And so they go off. Max and friends get to the small hole. Dwight's like, you know what? You guys go on ahead. I will stay back. And Max remembers a certain passage in the Codex about dwarves and how certain dwarves are terrified of confined spaces. And he says, I understand you, Dwight. Please don't worry about anything. We will come out and we'll be fine. We'll still be friends. And Dwight's like, oh, thank you. And he actually farts. And he says, that's what I think of your human sympathy. And he runs away. And it's awesome. Max and friends meet with the elders, and the elders are discussing what happened the entire time that they were gone. How Princess had found her way into the Earthlings' realm, found Earthlings so delicious that she couldn't stop eating them, and eventually ate every Earthling. And she was bored, so she brought Frobbits onto Earth so that she could hunt them for something to do. Max says, this is terrible, we have to do something. And Sarah and Dirk are like, we don't really have to do anything, we just have to get home. And Max is like, I really, really want to do something. There's a little conversation about that. And at the end of the conversation, Max says, I don't care, I'm the one that takes us home. I'm going to help these people first, and then we can go home. Do you remember Brock? He was the guy that had all the prisoners lined up, and one of them turned out to be the dragon. Well, Brock is meeting with the king to discuss the dragon hunt. And the king is trying to discuss terms, trying to say, you can hunt them and sell them, but I get 50% of the profits. Brock eventually says, you know what? I could always sell them for much more than I'm saying to Rezormoore because he'll buy anything at any price, and then just give a small percentage of that to the king, and he'll think that he's getting a better deal when I'm really getting all the money. And so Brock eventually just concedes. That is pretty much where our section ends today. My question for you today is, would you help the frog people or would you go back? I will answer tomorrow. Do not forget that the next book that I will be reading is The Gunslinger by Stephen King. Go out and grab it by any legal means necessary. Buy it at a bookstore. Buy it on a Kindle, borrow it from a friend, borrow it from the library. I don't care what you do as long as it's legal and you read it before I ruin it for you. I've been Elliot the Purple-Haired Doofus reminding you to watch your Pajama Radius, and I will see you all in the next chapters of Bad Unicorn by Platt F. Clark. Toodles!